Today is December 30th, 2020. We're here in Gwinnett County Magistrate Court conducting preliminary hearings by way of Zoom video conferencing. This is a result of the state Supreme Court Justice Order suspending or limiting in-person court proceedings due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Parties have agreed to proceed by way of video conferencing and waive any technical difficulties to this process. The matter before the court is the State of Georgia versus Stanley Williams. Mr. Williams is represented by Attorney Lawrence Lewis, and on behalf of the state, I have Kelsey Cole. Mr. Williams is charged on warrant number 20W15856 with aggravated assault. He's charged on warrant number 20W16178 with criminal trespass damage. That's a misdemeanor charge. And on warrant number 20W16179 with simple assault, also a misdemeanor charge. Are those the charges upon which the state is proceeding, ADA called?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you may proceed.
Okay.
Judge, may I ask one question before we begin? Do you have the complaint with Ms. Brooks available? Can you see who else is signed on? I sent her the link. I believe she wanted to testify today.
Okay, one moment.
It should be Q Brooks.
I have an iPhone. That might be her.
Okay.
I have an iPhone, so just let me know at that time. I'll pull her in.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, ADA, you may proceed.
Okay. Your Honor, we have lead officer Jay Lizalde here. Officer Lizalde, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, you are, ma'am.
Okay, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. Can you state your full name for the record?
My name is Officer Jorge Lizalde
And where are you employed?
with Gwinnett County Police Department, ma'am.
How long have you been with Gwinnett County Police Department?
Total, but almost a year. In January would be a year.
Okay. Are you a post-certified law enforcement officer in Gwinnett?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Were you employed in that capacity on the date of this offense involving the defendant Stanley Williams?
Yes, I was, ma'am.
And are you the officer that came into contact with Stanley Williams on that date?
I did not make contact with Stanley Williams on that date. He was not on scene when I arrived.
Okay. Did you eventually make contact with him?
No, ma'am. I have not made any contact with Mr. Stanley Williams. When I arrived on scene, he left the scene.
Okay. Please tell us how you became involved with this case.
So I got a 911 call about a domestic call at the park at 980 Apartments. It's 980 Walter Boulevard in Lawrenceville. When I arrived, I met with the victim. I'm probably going to butcher her name. It's Quintora Brooks. I believe I said that correctly. When I arrived on scene, she mentioned to me that she got into an altercation with Mr. Stanley Williams due to her mentioning to him that he needed to pay rent at the apartment. And then she stated to me, Mr. Williams began to get angry, and he grabbed her by the neck, choking her, and then threw her head into a wall. So yeah, that's where I got to. I got all the information there, and then she mentioned to me after the incident of her, the mentioning of Mr. Williams choking her, he attempted to hit her with a shower rod. Then the victim, Ms. Brooks, mentioned to me that she ran into a room with 3 kids that were present at the time, locked the door, and then began to call 911.
And where was the location where Ms. Brooks stated that this occurred?
She mentioned to me that it happened in the apartment that she was in.
And is that apartment within Gwinnett County?
Yes, it is. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you met and spoke with her afterwards?
Yes, this happened all afterwards.
Okay. And so did you view any of the injuries that she was reporting?
I did visually observe. I did see a bump on the left. Oh, excuse me. It was my left, so it will be the right side of her head. I also did see markings red markings on the side of her neck that could possibly be related to, Mr. Williams strangling or grabbing her by the neck. I also did see markings on her hands. She did have a couple scratches on her hand.
And can you describe the bump that was on her head?
It was a bump. I could not really recall, but I do remember it was a bump. It did have a small bruise, but I do not recall.
Okay. And did she say that that bump came from him with the shower rod, or how did she say that happened?
So she mentioned that, yes, so all of the markings happened during the incident with Mr. Williams.
Okay, she didn't specify how the bump happened. Okay.
No,
And the red markings that were on her neck, were they consistent with strangling?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what was her demeanor like whenever you were talking with her?
She seemed kind of nervous, kind of out of it, I guess, a way I could say it. It was pretty early in the morning, so it was maybe 4 or 5 in the morning, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, it could be possibly related to that, but she seemed pretty, like, nervous and a little out of it.
Was she upset? Was she crying?
She wasn't crying, but she did seem kind of like, just upset and nervous, I guess you could say.
And she did tell you that the defendant attacked her?
Yes.
Okay. Did she seem to waver in that at all, or she was very clear that the defendant attacked her?
She was clear. She would mention to me that Mr. Williams, she invited Mr. Williams over to, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was a family gathering, if I remember correctly. And I did mention to her at the time, since Mr. Williams was not on scene, if she could make contact with him. And she did mention to me that her phone wasn't on at that time. Mm-hmm. She mentioned to me that she communicated him via direct message through Instagram, I believe. I think that's how they mentioned it.
Did she say whether, if this was at a family function where it occurred, did she say that anyone else had witnessed it?
She only mentioned the children that were inside of the home. I believe it was 3 children. If you may, I do have my field notes. If I could mention them, yes. If I could just quickly check the names. Mm-hmm. I'm probably.
That's okay.
I don't have any objection. That's what I was saying. I don't have
okay. So yes, there was 3 children that you mentioned that were present. I'm gonna probably butcher the names, but okay. Excuse me.
Sir, just say the first names. This is a live. Okay.
Okay. Yes, Your Honor. Is Tomaya, Tamia, and Talia.
Did you speak with any of them?
I did not. No, ma'am. They were just kind of playing around when I was speaking with Miss Brooks. They were just kind of sitting on the couch watching a movie.
Okay. Based off of maybe looking at booking photos, do you see the defendant on the Zoom call?
Judge, I'm going to object to that. Obviously, somebody's been arrested. And obviously, I don't know if the prosecutor or the court will ask if he was shown a photo or a video, but his testimony is he's never seen Stanley Williams. And if he's never seen Stanley Williams, then I don't think he can identify.
Sustained. Next question.
Okay. Officer, did you take photos of the injuries to the victim?
I did. I did take photos of the injuries of the bump, of her neck, and then also the hand.
And did you take photos of the scene, of any disarray at the scene?
I did not.
Okay. All right, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Attorney Lewis, your witness.
Officer, good afternoon. Let me ask you this, because I don't think you were asked. Did Ms. Brooks show you any photo or video of Mr. Stanley Williams?
She did not. I have never seen a photo or video footage of Mr. Stanley Williams.
All right. Did she appear to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol when you spoke to her? I did hear that you may have interviewed her early in the morning. Did she appear to be under the influence of any drugs or alcohol when you spoke to her?
It did not appear so.
All right. You didn't smell any odor of alcohol on her?
I did not, sir.
All right. You observed some injuries on her and you took photos of those injuries. Is that right?
I did, yes, sir.
Did you see damage on the inside of the apartment?
I did not see any damage of the apartment.
All right.
The only part of the apartment that I was actually in was the living room area, the common area. That's the only part I was in.
Okay. And the statement that she made to you, was that recorded on body cam?
Yes, it was. Yes, sir.
You indicated that it was about 4 or 5 in the morning. Was that the time the fight started or the time you responded to the scene?
That's the time I was on scene. So it was around maybe that time, like I mentioned, 4 to 5, maybe, off the top of my head.
Did she indicate, she told you that the fight may have been about rent money. Did she indicate when the fight had occurred? Had it occurred at 1 o'clock? Were they fighting for 2 hours? Was it a 5-minute fight? Did she give you any sense of that?
No, sir, not at all. She just mentioned to me that there was an altercation with Mr. Stanley Williams, and that was it.
Okay, did she indicate if she had injured Mr. Williams at all?
She did not.
The age of the children, you indicated there were 3 children. What's the age of the oldest child?
The age of the oldest child that I got was 9 years old.
Okay, and you didn't actually speak to that child to figure out what that child may have observed. Is that right?
I did not. No, sir.
Did you speak to any other witnesses? Were there any other witnesses other than Ms. Brooks to the exchange that happened between Ms. Brooks and Mr. Stanley Williams?
The only person I spoke to was Miss Brooks. There was no other witnesses on the scene.
All right. Thank you very much. No further questions, Judge.
Okay, any redirect by the state?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Officer Lozada, if you could please stand by, I'm just gonna place you back in the waiting room. The other officer's gonna testify in case they need to call you back, so please don't leave yet, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Dig, probably may proceed.
All right. And Officer Kurst, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear and affirm.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Can you tell us your name for the record?
I am Jeffrey Nathaniel Kirst
Okay. And where are you employed?
with the Gwinnett County Police Department
How long have you been with Gwinnett County?
since January 13th.
Of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you a post-certified law enforcement officer in Gwinnett County?
I am.
Were you employed in that capacity on the date of this offense involving Stanley Williams?
I was.
And how did you come into contact with Stanley Williams?
I actually myself did not come in contact with Mr. Stanley Williams. I only pulled a warrant out for him after viewing a footage incident.
So what footage did you view?
Off of the victim's phone, she showed me a footage of Mr. Stanley Williams trying to break into her residence.
Okay, and how did you come into contact with the victim and obtain this video?
So, there was a call put out from an anonymous neighbor of Mrs. Brooks' residence. The complainant, the anonymous complainant, heard shouting, arguing, possibly a fight going on. When I responded to the incident, I knocked on the first door I heard. The complainant mentioned an address that she thought it was coming from. We went to that address. I asked Miss Brooks, would she answer the door if there was any arguing going on, to which she said, yeah, her boyfriend and friend were just over. A physical altercation happened between the friend and the boyfriend, to which they both left. After that, Mr. Stanley Williams tried breaking into Mrs. Brooks' back door using a screwdriver, to which she allowed us to come in and view the damage on the back door. A physical altercation, to my understanding, did not occur between the victim and the suspect. Only after the footage she showed on her phone of Mr. Williams trying to break into the back door, she was put in fear for her own safety, which is where the simple assault warrant and the criminal trespass warrant were from.
Okay, and so the video that you saw, that could you clearly see the defendant in that video?
I could not clearly see the defendant due to curtains being on the door, I believe, or some type of blinds. But based on the voice of the suspect being Stanley Williams, the victim testified to me that it was him, and she recognized the voice.
Okay. And do you see the defendant based off of the video that you saw? Do you see that person on the Zoom call?
Judge, I'm gonna object. I believe the testimony of the officer was he never saw anybody on the video because of the blind, so he wouldn't be able to identify anybody.
Overruled, I think he said it was difficult to see him because of the curtain, and either he did or he didn't. He's gonna talk about it now. Go ahead.
Okay, all right.
So, it being nighttime and there being some type of curtains or blinds, I cannot clearly see who the person was per se. Only based off of the testimony of the victim that it was Mr. Williams, her recognizing the voice and her being in her own home and recording it on her own phone right shortly after the altercation with Mr. Williams and the friend.
Judge, may I ask a question pursuant to my objection?
Let her finish and then you
Yes,
can.
Judge.
Go ahead.
And so you were the officer that eventually took out the warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you make the arrest?
I did not make the arrest.
Okay. Have you seen booking photos of the defendant after he was arrested?
Yes.
And so you're familiar with the defendant's face based off of the booking photos that had his name that matched what the victim said?
So I will say again, I did not clearly see Mr. Williams' face or any part of his body, actually.
And sorry, I'll clarify. So the booking photos that you've seen of the defendant, did the name matching up with those photos match the name that the victim provided?
Yes.
Okay. And let's see. And so the video that you saw in your communications with the victim, all she relayed to you was that he was trying to break into the house with the screwdriver?
Yes.
Okay, so she did not relay to you anything that happened inside of the home other than him trying to break in?
So, again, when we arrived, she explained to me that while in the home, Mr. Williams was in a physical altercation with a friend shortly after they left, and continuously after that, Mr. Williams came back trying to get into the apartment through the back door with the screwdriver.
Okay. Okay, no further questions.
Okay, all right. Attorney Lewis, you can, your witness.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, officer. When you were able to look at the video that Ms. Brooks had provided, were you able to tell if the male, from your looking at the video, were you able to tell if the male was black male, Hispanic male? Were you able to tell that?
No, sir.
Okay, so no portion of the video that Ms. Brooks showed you showed the person's face. Is that right?
That is right.
All right. Can't tell anything by hairstyle, height, weight, anything. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
Okay. You responded on November the 20th. Is that right?
Yes.
About what time?
I think it was around 11
AM or PM?
p.m.
11 p.m. And Ms. Brooks had told you that Mr. Williams had been in the house and had been arguing with someone else inside the house. Is that right?
Yes.
Did she give you the name of that person? Do you have the name of that person written anywhere?
I do not.
Okay, did Ms. Brooks describe a physical altercation between Mr. Williams and this third party before you were called out?
No. This physical altercation, she only explained to me while we were there interviewing her.
Okay, and did she call 911 or did the neighbor call 911?
A neighbor did, hearing the argument and possibly a physical altercation happening.
Okay, so hearing the drama between who Ms. Brooks described as Mr. Williams and somebody else, a neighbor calls the police. Is that right?
That is
the
right.
Police, you arrived, and did you capture the interview with Ms. Brooks on body cam?
I did.
Okay. And at 11 at night, did she appear to be under the influence of any drugs or alcohol when you're speaking to her?
No, I did not suspect any intoxication of any alcohol or drugs.
All right. You saw some damage to the door. Did you see any injury to Miss Brooks at all?
I did not see any injury to Miss Brooks, nor did she say that she was involved in a physical fight. To my understanding, I don't think she was harmed in any way.
Okay, did she explain to you why Mr. Williams had to try to re-enter the apartment with a screwdriver when he had already been inside the apartment in the altercation?
As of right now, I think he only wanted back in from her explaining to me that he simply just wanted back in. He might have left something, but he might have been intoxicated.
Did she leave you with the impression
Sorry,
she sort of pushed everybody out of the house when they started arguing?
No, she left me with the impression that they left on their own will, and because of the nature of the incident, she locked all her doors and she didn't want anyone back. But to her testifying to me, Mr. Williams wanted back in.
Okay. I understand it. Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any redirect by the state?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Any other evidence by the state?
No.
Okay. Officer Kirst, I'm going to put you in the waiting room. Attorney Lewis, you're going to call your witness?
Yes, Judge. Ms.
Okay.
Brooks.
All right. So I want you to stand by, Officer Kirst, in case there's some rebuttal testimony they want, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to admit this individual and see if this is the party you're looking for. Where is that?
Ms. Brooks, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Are you ready, Judge?
I'm ready.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, Ms. Brooks? Do you swear the testimony provided this afternoon in the case of the State of Georgia versus Stanley Williams will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hand down. I'm going to be asking you some questions, and then ultimately the prosecutor, she will have an opportunity to ask you some questions also. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, one moment. Ms. Brooks, can you find a place to
Yeah.
sit or position? Okay.
If I've never had it happen, but obviously it could happen at any time. If I ask you some questions and you answer my questions, and then the prosecutor begins to ask you questions, and you don't like the questions that the prosecutor is asking you, ultimately the judge can disregard whatever you have said if you don't answer the prosecutor's questions. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You've been sworn to tell the truth, and I think it's important for you to understand whatever you say is being recorded. The prosecutor, if in fact you say something that's not true, the prosecutor, she may in fact decide to prosecute you later on for perjury. You understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. If in fact you say something that is the truth, the prosecutor can use that statement later on at trial because she's going to be cross-examining you now. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I think, Judge, that's all the questions that I have for the witness. If I don't know if you have any other questions or anything else you want me to apprise the witness of before we begin.
No, I think you have done advised her of the potential for perjury and the importance of being truthful in this proceeding.
Okay, fantastic. Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
you heard the two officers testify, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, normally in court we have what's called sequestration, so you don't get to hear what the other witnesses say before you testify. With Zoom, that's a little bit more complex. But let me start here. My understanding of what the two officers told the court this afternoon is that there were two separate incidents. Is that right?
Yeah.
One incident on November 14th and one incident on November 20th. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the November 14th incident. What happened in the November 14th incident?
We got into an argument over money.
pertaining to rent money.
Okay.
And I wanted him to give me the rent money, then, and he wasn't able to, so I was like, leave. And I knew I couldn't just kick him out because he stayed with me.
Okay, and how long have you and Mr. Williams been living together?
Since the beginning of the year.
Okay, so from January to November of 2020, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, when's your rent normally due?
On the fifth of each month.
Okay, good. So here we are, November the 14th. So what rent are you looking for? The November rent or the December rent?
I had paid the full amount. I was looking for his half.
Okay, good. And so some 9-10 days after you should have gotten his portion of the rent, you were still asking him for his portion of the rent.
Yeah.
Okay, what time did that argument start?
I don't recall.
Okay, how long did the argument last?
Not that long.
Okay, was anybody drinking any alcohol during the argument or using any drugs?
I was drunk.
Okay, and had Mr. Stanley Williams consumed any alcohol?
No.
Okay, so you were drinking. What were you drinking?
I think it was some type of brown liquor, whiskey.
Okay, and there were 3 children present, is that right?
Yeah.
Are these children that you share with Mr. Williams?
No.
Okay, these are your children.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 children present, you're drinking, there's an argument, and how long does the argument last before the police are called?
It didn't last a long time.
Okay, so tell me what happens then. You're not arguing long, he don't have the money, or he's not giving you the money, so you call 911.
No, I told him to leave. He wouldn't leave. So,
Okay, at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, and was he working at the time?
He was doing his selling beats and stuff. Yeah, so he was working.
Okay, typically that's not done at 4 in the morning. So when you told him to leave at 4:30 in the morning, you expected him to go where?
Anywhere.
Anyway, it didn't matter. Okay, good. So he didn't leave, and then you called the police.
Yeah.
Okay, did something happen in between? He's not leaving. Did you fix lasagna and then call the police? What happened in between?
No. So when I told him to leave, he wouldn't leave. So I picked up the shower rod, but when I was gonna hit him, I was just trying to scare him, and he ran out the door.
Okay, good. So you asked him to leave. He wouldn't leave. You picked up the shower rod. He left. Did you then call the police?
Yeah, because I knew that if I called the police, then they would allow him. They would tell him to leave.
Okay, but he had already left once you picked up the shower rod. Is that right?
Yeah, that's for him not to come back. That's why I called the police.
Okay, all right. So he has already left, and you're calling the police for him not to come back. After he left the apartment, did you see him again on November 14th?
No, I didn't.
Okay, good. So the police arrived how soon after you called the police?
Like right afterwards.
Right after, all right. And you tell the police what? Do you recall what you told the police?
Yeah.
Okay, the first police officer testified, said that you said that during the fight, my client was choking you and hitting you with the rod. Is that right?
Yeah, I did say that.
You recall telling the police that?
Yeah.
Okay, why would you tell the police that?
I was lying because
Why? If he's not there, why tell the police? When the police come, you could just say I didn't want him to come back. Why tell the police he's assaulted you?
Well, they told me that they couldn't just lock him up because if he stay there, then they can't. It's not really nothing that they can do about it. So I just made up something.
Okay, so when you originally called the police, you told the police you didn't want him to come back.
Yeah.
They told you they couldn't arrest him or prevent him from coming back.
Right, because he stayed there.
Okay, and so then you told them the story about how you got assaulted and struck with the rod. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, what injuries? The officer indicated he's taking photos of scratches that are on you or a bump that's on your head. What's he taking photos of if there's no physical exchange between you and Mr. Williams?
Well, when he ran out the door and the door swung open, I ran right after him and the door hit me in the head. So that's the bump that he seen on my head.
Okay, when you were chasing Mr. Williams with the rod.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the police take photos. Is anything else in the apartment messed up or damaged?
No.
Okay, was the 9-year-old awake or were any of the other children awake?
They was looking at TV.
Okay, and were they looking at TV in the living room where the exchange was going on between you and Mr. Williams, or were they in a different room?
They was I think they normally be in the living room. I think they was in the living room.
Okay, that's fine. So the officers end up leaving, and then when's the next time after November the 14th that you see Mr. Williams?
By the end of the month.
Well, I think the next day, at least the date I have on the warrant is November the 20th, where Mr. Williams has some kind of disagreement and there's some allegations about him trying to break back into the apartment. Do you remember that being on November the 20th?
Yeah.
Was that the next time you saw Mr. Williams, or did you see him before that incident, November the 20th?
It's like the last time, or the next time I had.
The next time. Okay, so when Mr. Williams left on November the 14th, he stayed away for almost a week. He wasn't staying at the house with you for almost a week. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, are you texting him or communicating on Snapchat with him during that week?
No.
Okay, so once he ran out the apartment, when you chasing him with the rod, you then don't see him again for about a week.
Right.
Okay, so when he comes on November 20th, tell me how that happens. He just pops up, or he's telling you he's coming?
No, it was him and his childhood friend.
Okay, they pop up at the house. It's about what time?
It was late on that evening. I don't know the time.
That's fine. Did he tell you he was coming?
Huh?
Did he tell you he was coming?
Yeah, he had messaged me.
He said, I'm coming. You were like, that's fine. You can come.
Because he was getting his stuff.
Okay, because he was supposed to be leaving. Moving out?
Yeah.
Okay, good. November 20th, let me come get my stuff. I got to get out of there. So,
Right.
Is there an argument between him and you or him and something?
No, we wasn't arguing at all.
Okay. The police were called. Do you recall the police being called?
No, because I didn't call no police.
Okay, did you speak to the police to show the police where there was some damage to the back door, where some screwdriver had been used to pry open something?
Yeah.
Okay, do you recall that Mr. Williams supposedly trying to pry open the back door?
He was trying to get in. He was trying to get in.
Okay, let me say this. I'm feeling like a dentist now, like I'm pulling teeth. Okay, I need you to tell us from the point where Mr. Williams says, I'm coming back over to get my stuff, to the police arriving and you showing pry marks, what happened? I just need to know what happened.
I don't really know. I didn't call the police. I just know that there was an altercation between him and somebody else.
Okay, was that inside the apartment or outside the apartment?
It wasn't inside the apartment.
Okay, that was outside the apartment. Had you been drinking before the police arrived that day?
I was drinking, but it wasn't about me. It didn't have nothing to do with me.
Okay. When the officers came in, you pointed to something in the apartment and said that somebody had damaged it. Do you recall saying that?
The back door?
Yeah, the back door. Do you recall telling an officer that?
Yeah.
Okay, do you recall the officer saying that that's on body cam, that he had responded and that you said that Mr. Williams was trying to break in the back door? Do you recall the officer saying that 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, but I really didn't know who it was. I just blamed him for it because I thought it was him.
Okay. You answered a lot of questions, and I don't know if you're trying to figure out what answer I'm looking for. That's why I'm just trying to get you to answer the questions.
I'm trying to tell you as much. I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to tell you as much as I know. I don't really know who it was.
Ms. Brooks?
Yes.
He's gonna ask you a question, you answer to the best of your
Ms.
ability.
Brooks, do you recall the officer testifying before you testified that he has you on body cam telling him that Mr. Williams tried to break into the house? That's the
Yes.
question. Okay, good.
Yes.
Now the question is, do you recall telling the officer, irrespective of who called the police, do you recall speaking to the police on November 20th, telling the police Mr. Williams tried to break into the house after you had closed the door and locked the door?
Yes.
Okay, why did you tell the police Mr. Williams tried to break into the house on November the 20th?
I thought it was him. I don't.
Okay, was somebody trying to break in?
I thought it like somebody was trying to open the door.
Okay, okay, so Mr. Williams had come over with a friend to get his stuff. Did you at any point in time tell Mr. Williams you can't come in and get your stuff?
No, I didn't tell him he could come in and do his stuff.
Okay, so when he arrived, did you let him in the apartment so he could get his stuff?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. So he came in and he got his stuff, right?
Yeah.
How long did that take?
It didn't take that long.
Less than half an hour, more than a half an hour?
Like an hour or so.
Okay, got it. He then leaves with his stuff, right?
Mhm.
You and him didn't have any argument at that time,
No.
right? Okay, good. So Mr. Williams is there about an hour. He leaves with his stuff. And about what time do you hear somebody at the door trying to break in?
It was late that night.
Okay, what time had Mr. Williams left earlier when he left with his stuff?
He left like 9.
Okay, so,
Like around 9.
so about 2 hours later, you heard somebody at the back door. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. Did you text Mr. Williams and say, "Hey, is that you?"
No, I didn't.
Okay, and you didn't see who it was, but it's my understanding you tried to do some kind of recording. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear the officer say that he has you on body cam as you're showing him the video saying that's Mr. Stanley Williams' voice on the video? Did you hear the officer say that?
Mhm.
Okay, do you recall showing the officer a video and telling the officer, hey, we can't see his face, but I know that's Stanley Williams' voice trying to enter my apartment without my permission? Do you recall telling the officer that?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. You listen, I don't know if the case is going to get bound over or not. You understand if the judge allows Mr. Williams to get a bond, she's going to probably say that y'all should have no contact, right?
We're not together.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Whether y'all together, whether y'all gonna be together, whether Valentine's is coming up, you understand the judge is probably gonna say you and Mr. Williams need to stay far away from each other if she grants him a bond. You understand that, right?
That's cool with me.
Oh, okay, all right, good. Okay, here the prosecutor. I'm not familiar with her. She's new to me. She may be a very experienced prosecutor. She's gonna ask you some questions now.
And call for your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, so Miss Brooks, you had, whenever the cops came the first night on November the 14th, you had a bump on your head. And so you were saying that you got that bump on your head from running into the door.
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever you're, and also you're now saying that you came at the defendant with a rod and that's when he started running.
Yeah.
Okay, so to break that down a little bit more for me, explain to me what happened in detail when you picked up the rod.
So when I told him to leave, he wouldn't leave. And I grabbed the rod at him and he ran out the door.
So you grabbed the rod at him. How close were you to him?
Like, I don't know, like from here, like it was like 2 arm length.
Okay, all right, and he started to run. How far were you behind him as you were chasing after him?
Like he was like compared to where my door was, like the front door, and I wasn't that far, but
So
I
you
wasn't
weren't that far. And so he runs out the door, and you're running after him out the door.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
I was.
Go ahead.
I wasn't gonna hit him. I was trying to act like I was gonna hit him because I know he was close to the door and I know he was gonna run straight out the door. But I didn't know that the door was gonna hit me, and I didn't know I was gonna run that fast to the door.
Okay, so but if he's running out of the door and you're not that far behind him, it sounds like the door is open.
The door swung open when he left out the door. It swung open.
And hit you in the head.
Yes.
Okay, which side was your bump on?
It was on. I think it was on this side.
Okay. All right, and let's see. So you also had red markings on your neck, which in your initial story was that he was strangling you.
Yeah.
So what happened with those?
Those wasn't like from him strangling me. There was hickeys. I just knew that, based on them being on my neck, I can say that he strangled me, and that would be believable.
Hickeys look pretty different than strangulation marks.
Those were hickeys. Those was hickeys on my neck.
How long ago did you get them?
Like 2-3 days prior. I have photos with a lot of hickeys on my neck.
Okay. Hickeys don't stay on your neck for 3 days.
No, it depends on how they slip in your neck. It does.
Okay. All right. And you also had scratches on your hand. Where did those come from?
This is the stretch I showed you. This stretch came from, I think I was moving when I was moving my bedroom suit around.
Okay, the officer said multiple scratches though.
No, I don't. This one, I don't know.
Okay.
About
And
that.
so when you told your initial story to the officers, I understand that you're saying that you wanted to make sure that the defendant was not going to be able to return to the house. Why didn't you just ask them to take out a restraining order against him?
I didn't know that I didn't know I was gonna run that fast to the door.
Okay. So, but if he's running out of the door and you're not that far behind him, it sounds like the door is open.
The door swung open when he left out the door. It swung open.
And hit you in the head.
Yes.
Okay. Which side was your bump on?
It was on. I think it was on this side.
Okay. All right. And let's see. So you also had red markings on your neck, which in your initial story was that he was strangling you.
Yeah.
So what happened with those?
Those wasn't like from him strangling me. There was hickeys. I just knew that, based on them being on my neck, I can say that he strangled me, and that would be believable.
Hickeys look pretty different than strangulation marks.
Those were hickeys. Those was hickeys on my neck.
How long ago did you get them?
Like 2-3 days prior. I have photos with a lot of hickeys on my neck.
Okay. Hickeys don't stay on your neck for 3 days.
No, it depends on how they slip in your neck. It does.
Okay. All right. And you also had scratches on your hand. Where did those come from?
This is the stretch I showed them. This stretch came from, I think I was moving when I was moving my bedroom suit around.
Okay, the officer said multiple scratches though.
No, I don't. This one, I don't know.
Okay.
About
And
that.
so when you told your initial story to the officers, I understand that you're saying that you wanted to make sure that the defendant was not going to be able to return to the house. Why didn't you just ask them to take out a restraining order against him?
I didn't know that they could do that. I thought they told me I had to go down there and do it. And my schedule is busy. I have 3 girls, so I ain't have time to go do that.
Okay, so you didn't think that was a more appropriate option?
No, because I didn't feel like threatened by him. Like that night, I was intoxicated. So that's why I didn't take no restraining order on him, because I know he's homeless. He didn't hit me or did any of the things that I said he did.
Okay. Well, if you were too intoxicated to do certain things, how were you able to come up with a story to tell the officers that matched up with what looked like injuries on you?
Because I knew I bumped my head and I knew I had the red marks on my neck from hickeys.
Okay. But how intoxicated were you?
I wasn't like, I could walk. I was like stable, but like,
How many drinks had you had?
I had drunk whiskey, so like 2 cups, not full cups, but like this much.
Okay, so 2 liquor drinks.
Yeah.
And you could walk, and you were coherent enough to be able to talk to the officers and make a story that could match up with your injuries.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, and then for the second incident on November 20th, let's see. So the defendant came over with a friend to pick up his stuff at about 9 o'clock, and then he and his friend got into an argument, and they left.
No, him and his friend got into an argument outside of the apartment. That's why I believe when whoever called the police, they heard that they didn't get into an argument in my apartment. I locked my doors because I was scared of whatever was going on.
Okay. And then later, that's when you heard someone trying to get into your house.
Right.
Okay. And why you said at least that you thought it was him. What made you think it was him? The defendant.
Because he was like, they was trying to get in the door and they was opening the door and calling my name and stuff like that. But I shouldn't have.
It was particularly him rather than someone else who knew you.
Yeah, that's why I said I shouldn't have jumped to the conclusion of saying that it was him. It could have been the guy that he was with. I don't know.
I'm sorry, we lost you, baby.
Yeah, my internet cut out.
Go ahead.
Ms. Brooks, would you mind repeating your answer to that?
I said I shouldn't have jumped to a conclusion and saying that was him.
But even
could have been
testifying earlier, you did say that you still, at this current time, believed it was him.
Yeah, because the person was calling my name.
And so why did that make you think it was him? Was it his voice?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like him. I don't.
And you had been.
I didn't physically see. Huh?
He had been living with you for almost a year at this point.
Yeah, almost.
And so you knew his voice pretty well?
Ma'am, I was drunk that night.
I know.
Both of the nights I was drunk. So, like I said, it sounded like him. I don't know because I physically didn't see him. He didn't tell me he was trying to get in or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I just know when he left out the door and him and his friend, whatever, I didn't even see that they argued. I mean, well, I heard that they was arguing, but I didn't even see the physical altercation that they had.
Okay.
I was drinking, minding my business.
Okay.
Later on, somebody was trying to get in my back door.
Okay.
Yes, I did say that was him. But did I see him? No.
Right. Okay. And so earlier, I know you're saying now you're drunk on the 20th. Earlier, you had said that you weren't drunk, but you were just drinking.
I mean, drinking and drunk, same thing. I'm not a heavy drinker. Anything can get me. If I take 2 shots right now, I'll say I'm drunk.
Okay. Okay. And the only reason I'm trying to draw a line between that is because whenever you've had a couple drinks but you're not drunk yet, you're a little bit more coherent than you are when you're actually drunk. You're able to take in more of your surroundings and remember more, see more clearly, perceive things more clearly. And so I'm not just trying to, catch you in anything. I actually want to know, were you just drinking a little bit or were you drunk?
I was drinking brown liquor, so yeah, it was pretty.
Okay. But so, and so after having been with the defendant and living with the defendant for 11 months, you knew his voice pretty well? Just in general? Like, he called you on the phone even though it was him?
Well, I say yeah, then I say no. Because, like, him and his friend sound alike.
Okay. But you did tell the officer that came out on the 20th, you showed him the video of someone trying to break in, and you did say that was the defendant, and you knew by his voice.
Yeah, I did say that.
Okay. All right, no further questions.
Okay, any redirect?
Judge, I have 2 questions. Ms. Brooks, how old are you?
29.
How old are you?
29?
29. How old is Mr. Stanley?
30.
30, okay, all right, no further questions, thank you, Judge.
Any redirect from, you, Ms. Cobb?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm gonna place you in the waiting room then. Does the state rest?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Any additional evidence from defense?
No, Judge, only argument.
Okay, all right, you may proceed.
Judge, respectfully, first of all, I'm going to ask that all the charges be dismissed. Obviously, the court is going to have to make a determination. Does the court believe what Ms. Brooks says today, or does the court believe what Ms. Brooks told the officers when they responded that night? The whole second story was super confusing to me. When I heard it from the officer, I think I now understand it. My client came in the house. No police were called from the incident that occurred about a week earlier on November the 14th. That automatically should put a question, I think, in the court's mind. November 20th, my client comes over to the house to get his stuff. There's some kind of argument outside, which a neighbor calls the police, and then there's some type of pulling at the door or somebody calling her name, which may be a criminal trespass, which may be nothing. I say assume for all of this investigative criminal trespass, even if you assume it's Mr. Williams. If anything, that I think there may be some question about whether it was Mr. Williams or not Mr. Williams. But all the rest of it, Ms. Brooks tells you, is a total fabrication. There is no fighting with Ms. Brooks. There's no apprehension. She doesn't call the police. She's drunk on both occasions, and she ends up attacking my client, Mr. Williams, which ends up resulting in the first aggravated assault charge. So obviously, I don't envy the court. The court has to make a determination. Does the court believe her now at age 29, or does the court believe her when she gives this account to the officer? And this all happened in the last 6 weeks, so it's not like she was 23 when she first told this story. But between November 14th and today, it's only been 6 weeks. I would argue, Judge, all the charges should be dismissed, and was not to find anything over just if for no other reason and the court could order that they not have any contact with one another, then the court would bind over the criminal trespass for whatever damage they may have been to the door. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, thank you. What's the state's position, ADA Cobb?
The state recognizes that this is not the most wonderful case and that the victim has given us multiple stories. However, at the preliminary hearing stage, the state does believe that there is sufficient probable cause based off of the victim's initial reporting of the incidents and what she initially told the officers. She told them that the defendant ran at her with a nail rod and left marks on her neck when he was trying to strangle her. The officer did see a mark on her head and did see red marks on her neck. That would be consistent with strangling. The officer also saw scratches on her hand, and he took photos of those injuries. While she is able to now come up a month later, while she's now able to come up with alternative theories for how those injuries could have been made, she's had a lot of time to think about it, and I don't think she would have been able to come up with such a perfect story if she's also going to say that she was very drunk and doesn't know what happened or why she lied. And then as for the second event, while she now says that she doesn't know who was at her door, it makes sense. Her original story makes sense that it was the defendant trying to come in. He was just at her home at 9 o'clock picking up his stuff. He had his fight with his friend and seemingly was not able to collect all of his belongings. She had locked all of the doors, preventing him from coming back inside to gather his belongings. And then he goes back later on to try to get into the house to gather his belongings and uses the screwdriver. And she takes a video of it, and she very clearly tells the officer that she knows that it was him by the sound of his voice. If she's living with him and in a relationship with him for almost a year, she knows the sound of his voice. People can sound similar, but whenever you're dating someone and living with someone, you know the sound of their voice. Those are the state's arguments.
Okay. All right, Mr. Williams, I do find sufficient probable cause to bind you over criminal trespass and simple assault. I do not find evidence on the aggravated assault incident. You are still to have no contact with the victim under the original special conditions of bond. You need to be clear that if you do have contact with her, and you are arrested, you will then not be eligible for a bond, and you could potentially be charged with aggravated stalking. All right, Mr. Lewis, is there anything else you want to go over with the court?
Judge, I just need to confirm that the court's dismissing the aggravated assault, bonding over the two misdemeanors. There's a bond on each one of those of $1,300. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, good. Then we don't need to address bond. I suspect my client may be able to bond out on those charges, and I'll let him know that he's to have no contact. I suspect that no contact, or via email, in person, no contact.
No contact at all.
I suspect that, Judge, will the bond conditions also say no alcohol during the conditions of bond?
He's already been given special conditions, and those special conditions provide, and I will read those off to you. Defendant shall not violate any laws, intimidate the witness, not drink alcohol, not take or possess drugs, not change his address, have no contact at all, absolutely, directly or indirectly, by person, by telephone, by messenger, or any other means of communication with the victim, Quinteria Brooks, in this matter.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Judge. Sometimes when people are trying to get out of jail, they sign it and run it out the jail, and they miss the whole part about no consumption of alcohol or indirect contact. So I'll reinforce that with my client. I suspect he'll find out, and we'll see the case on the other.